You just need to repeat 3 words, and money will flow effortlessly into your life. These words are simple, yet they carry a power so profound that when embraced fully, they reshape the very fabric of your reality. The mind does not argue with what is imagined and felt as real. It only obeys what you assume to be true. So, what are these 3 words? They are not magical incantations. They are not empty phrases. They are the declaration of your inner reality. I am wealthy. When you say, I am wealthy, do not speak it as a wish or a hope. Speak it as a fact, as though it has already been fulfilled. The phrase, I am wealthy, may seem simple at first glance, just 3 words strung together, yet its simplicity is exactly what gives it such extraordinary power. These words are not a mere wish, a fleeting hope, or an idle thought. They are a declaration of your inner reality, a statement that communicates directly to your subconscious mind. Every repetition of this phrase is an act of creation, an affirmation of the state you wish to inhabit. The mind does not argue with what is assumed to be true. It does not debate, it does not negotiate. It simply accepts what you impress upon it, and from that acceptance, it begins to orchestrate circumstances, ideas, and experiences that match the reality you have imagined. The transformational power of these 3 words lies not in the words themselves, but in the conviction, the feeling, and the assumption that accompanies them. When you repeat, I am wealthy with feeling, the mind perceives it as reality, and your life begins to shift naturally and effortlessly toward the fulfillment of that reality. Repetition alone, however, is not enough. It is not the mechanical chanting of words that brings wealth, but the inner realization, the deep knowing that wealth is already yours. You must not say, I am wealthy, as a hope for the future or a prayer for what you wish to receive. Instead, you must say it as a statement of fact, as though it has always been true. Picture your life as though abundance has already arrived. See yourself walking in comfort, making choices from a place of plenty, and enjoying the freedom that comes from having all you desire. Feel the satisfaction, the relief, and the joy of financial security. Let these feelings saturate your being, for the subconscious mind responds more to feeling than to words alone. By living in the state of already having, by repeating, I am wealthy with unwavering belief, you align yourself with the invisible current that brings ideas, opportunities, and resources directly to you. This simple phrase also acts as a filter for your consciousness. As you internalize, I am wealthy, your mind begins to discard thoughts of scarcity, doubt, and lack. Every doubt, every worry, every negative assumption about money slowly loses its influence over your perception. In its place, a new awareness takes root, an awareness of abundance, possibility, and limitless opportunity. Your actions, your choices, and even your encounters with others begin to reflect this new state. You start noticing opportunities that once went unseen. Doors that were previously closed now open with ease and circumstances that once seemed difficult now resolve naturally. This is not magic in the ordinary sense. It is the natural law of consciousness at work. Your inner state is the blueprint, and your external world is merely the reflection of that blueprint. Consistency is crucial. The transformative effect of I am wealthy multiplies as it becomes a habit, a natural part of your daily thinking, feeling, and living. The more you embody these words, the less you are influenced by temporary setbacks or external appearances. Wealth is not a distant goal to be achieved through struggle. It is a living state to be assumed and inhabited now. When you repeatedly impress your mind with the belief that you are wealthy, you awaken a creative power within you that cannot be denied. Opportunities, ideas, and even money itself flow effortlessly because you have become a living magnet for abundance. These three words are the key, but it is your feeling, your assumption, and your unwavering conviction that unlock the door to the life you desire. Wealth does not come to those who chase it through endless effort, struggle, or external striving. The world has conditioned us to believe that money is earned through toil, hard work, or endless sacrifice. Yet, this is a limited view. True abundance is not a product of outer circumstances. It is the natural expression of an inner state. To manifest wealth effortlessly, you must shift your focus from doing to being. It is not the mechanics of action, the hustling, or the planning that creates lasting prosperity. It is the feeling of already having. The mind and imagination respond not to the action itself, but to the state that precedes its action. When you live and feel as if wealth already exists, your subconscious mind begins to align every thought, decision, and opportunity with that state, and the outer world inevitably reflects it. To feel wealth is to live as though there is no lack in your life, even if your current circumstances suggest otherwise. Imagine the freedom of having every desire fulfilled, the ease of making decisions without limitation, and the joy of experiencing abundance in every form. Let this feeling permeate your body, your thoughts, and your actions. Walk through your day with the awareness of plenty. Speak, move, and think as someone whose life is already abundant. When your inner state vibrates with the certainty of wealth, the external world has no choice but to conform. Opportunities that once seemed scarce appear naturally. Connections, ideas, and resources align with your consciousness, effortlessly flowing into your experience. Wealth, in this sense, is not a distant goal to be achieved. It is a current reality to be inhabited here and now. It is essential to understand that effort without feeling is hollow. You may work tirelessly, create plans, and pursue opportunities. Yet if your inner state is one of lack, anxiety, or doubt, wealth will continue to evade you. Action alone cannot create prosperity. It must be born from the state of already having. Feeling is the magnet that draws abundance to you. Every inspired thought, every decisive move, every choice made from the conviction of already being wealthy resonates with the invisible laws of manifestation. When you feel wealth internally, Your actions become natural expressions of that state rather than forced attempts to achieve it. The universe responds to your inner state, not your outward struggle. Living as if wealth already exists also requires detachment from external circumstances. Do not let bills, debts, or temporary setbacks dictate your feelings. The outer world is a reflection of your inner consciousness. By consistently returning to the feeling of abundance, by consistently returning to the feeling of abundance, you signal to your subconscious mind that scarcity is not your reality, and it begins to create circumstances that align with your inner state. The more vivid, real, and detailed your inner experience of wealth, the more immediate and effortless its appearance in your life. It is not about waiting, hoping, or chasing. It is about living the truth of abundance now. When you truly embrace this principle, you will notice subtle but powerful shifts. People, opportunities, and resources that once seemed unrelated or random begin to appear naturally. Doors that were previously closed open with ease. Situations that once required struggle resolve effortlessly. Wealth manifests not because of your labor, but because you have learned to feel it fully, to inhabit it completely, and to live from a state of abundance. Feeling precedes manifestation. And when feeling becomes your natural state, manifestation becomes inevitable. This is the essence of effortless wealth. The inner reality you live in shapes the outer reality you experience. And the more completely you feel abundance, the more effortlessly it flows into your life. The mind cannot distinguish between what has been lived and what has been vividly imagined. This is a law of consciousness. Whatever you impress upon your mind with feeling and conviction becomes the blueprint for your reality. When you imagine yourself already living in wealth, already enjoying abundance, already fulfilled, your subconscious mind accepts it as truth. It does not question, it does not negotiate. It simply begins to align every thought, action, and circumstance to match that inner assumption. Imagination is not a mere fantasy or wishful thinking. It is the creative power through which all reality is formed. Every person, every circumstance, every experience you encounter is first imagined. Every experience you encounter, by learning to direct your imagination intentionally and persistently, you wield the power to shape your life in every way you desire. Persistent assumption is the key. It is not enough to occasionally think, I am wealthy, or to fleetingly imagine a life of abundance. Your inner state must be constant, unshakable, and fully lived. Imagine your life in such detail that it feels as real as the world around you. Picture the texture of success, the sound of prosperity, the freedom and joy that come with living without limitation. Engage all your senses. See it, hear it, feel it, and live it in your mind as though it is happening now. The more detailed and real your imagination, the more it impresses upon your subconscious, which cannot tell the difference between what is imagined and what is experienced. In time, your outer world will mirror this inner reality, bringing circumstances, people, and opportunities into alignment with the state you have assumed. Many people fail to realize the immense power they possess because they rely solely on external evidence. They look at their bank account, their current environment, and their immediate circumstances as proof of what is possible or impossible. But this approach is inverted. It is not the outside that determines the inside, it is the inside that creates the outside. When you persist in imagining the life you desire, when you act as if your inner reality is already true, the outer world must follow. You do not wait for the reality to appear. You create it by living it first in your imagination. The law of consciousness is absolute. That which you assume with feeling is realized. Imagination is the seed of all creation. When you nurture it with belief, attention, and emotion, it grows into tangible experience. You must guard your imagination carefully, for it will reflect whatever you feed it, whether fear, doubt, scarcity, or abundance. By consistently imagining wealth, freedom, and joy, you shape not only your mind, but the world around you. Each inspired thought becomes an invisible blueprint, each vivid visualization a step toward manifestation. Circumstances, opportunities, and resources appear as natural extensions of what has already been assumed within. The beauty of this principle is that it works even before any outward evidence exists. You do not need proof, validation, or recognition to begin creating. You simply imagine, persist, and assume the reality you desire with unwavering conviction. The outer world is merely a reflection of the state of consciousness you inhabit. By mastering your imagination and persisting in your assumptions, you become the architect of your life. Your inner reality dictates your outer reality, and the more fully you assume the life you desire in your imagination, the faster and more effortlessly it manifests. In truth, your imagination is your most powerful tool. It is not a place of escape, but the workshop of creation. By consciously using it to assume the state of wealth, freedom, and abundance, you impress upon your subconscious mind the undeniable truth that this reality already exists. The outer world will inevitably follow, for reality cannot resist the force of a mind fully aligned with the life it has imagined. Imagination creates reality, and persistent assumption transforms it into undeniable truth. Persistence is the hidden engine behind every manifestation of wealth, success, and abundance. It is not a single act, a fleeting thought, or a momentary burst of faith that shapes your reality. It is the steady, unwavering continuation of thought, feeling, and assumption that impresses your subconscious mind most deeply. To truly embody wealth, you must not only declare it, but persist in feeling it as real, regardless of what your senses tell you. Repetition with conviction and emotion strengthens your inner state, and it is this persistent state that gradually transforms your outer circumstances. The universe does not respond to occasional thoughts or half hearted wishes, it responds to a dominant, sustained inner assumption. When you persist, you are telling your mind, and therefore the world, that your inner reality is non negotiable, that your state, oh, If abundance is a fact, and that no external circumstance can contradict it, persistence requires living in the reality you desire consistently, not just in moments of inspiration or fleeting optimism. When you repeat the affirmation, I am wealthy, it must be accompanied by feeling as though it is already true. Each repetition, each return to this state deepens your impression upon the subconscious mind. Even if your current financial situation suggests otherwise, persist in the feeling of wealth as a present fact, not a future hope. This persistence is the key that bridges the gap between imagination and physical manifestation. It is through repeated assumption that your subconscious begins to rearrange circumstances, attracting people, ideas, and opportunities that align with the state you have steadfastly maintained. Without persistence, the seeds of imagination may remain dormant. With it, they grow into tangible, undeniable reality. Persistence is also the antidote to doubt. Doubt is a natural companion to desire, and it arises whenever external evidence does not immediately match your inner vision. Yet the one who persists in the state of having, in the feeling of fulfillment, refuses to be swayed by temporary setbacks or appearances. Every return to your desired state, every reaffirmation with emotion, strengthens your inner conviction and gradually erodes the resistance of disbelief. Your outer world begins to conform not through force or struggle, but as a natural consequence of your unwavering inner state. Persistence does not demand anxiety or obsession. It demands a quiet, confident, and continual assumption of the reality you wish to experience. The power of repetition lies not in quantity, but in quality. It is not about saying the words mindlessly. It is about saturating each repetition with feeling and certainty. When you repeatedly imagine and yourself as wealthy, your consciousness is reshaped. And this reshaped consciousness naturally draws corresponding events and circumstances. Persistence is the bridge between the imagined state and the realized state. It ensures that your imagination is not a passing fancy, but a living, dominant force that governs the unfolding of your life. Even subtle, consistent persistence produces profound results. As you return day after day, thought after thought, to the state of abundance, you begin to notice synchronicities, ideas, and opportunities that were invisible before. Circumstances that seemed fixed start to shift, aligning effortlessly with your inner state. This is the law of consciousness in motion. That which is persistently assumed, that which is continuously felt as real, becomes inevitable in the outer world. Persistence is therefore not optional. It is essential. It is the continuous fuel that transforms imagination into experience, desire into reality, and thought into form. By repeating your affirmations with emotion and certainty, day after day, moment after moment, you gradually build an unshakable inner state that the world must reflect. Your outer life becomes the natural echo of your persistent inner reality. and the wealth you imagine is no longer a dream, but an unavoidable consequence of your steadfast assumption. Abundance is not something that comes from outside. It is a reflection of the state you inhabit within. Your outer world is merely a mirror of your inner consciousness. If your mind and heart are aligned with the feeling of wealth, prosperity, and freedom, the universe naturally responds by arranging circumstances, people, and opportunities to match that inner state. Money, resources, and success do not have to be chased or forced. They flow effortlessly when your consciousness has assumed the state of already having. The world responds and ends to the dominant assumption you hold, and when that assumption is one of abundance, the outer world becomes its echo. This is why the truly wealthy often speak of effortless flow, ease, and synchronicity. They have internalized the truth that the outer world cannot resist the pull of a consciousness fully immersed in abundance. To experience this effortless flow, you must first make your inner state real. It is not enough to hope or wish for money, nor is it sufficient to perform actions without conviction. The inner assumption, the feeling of already being wealthy, must dominate your consciousness. Imagine your life as if abundance is already yours. Feel it in your body, in your emotions, and in your thoughts. Walk, talk, and act as one who knows that opportunities, resources, and prosperity are your natural state. When you cultivate this inner reality, the outer world begins to shift in perfect alignment. People, ideas, and circumstances that once seemed unrelated or unavailable suddenly appear as natural extensions of your state. The universe responds to your consciousness, not your external effort, and abundance flows naturally to the mind that already believes it exists. Many struggle with money because they focus on what is lacking rather than on the reality they wish to inhabit. They measure themselves by current circumstances instead of their inner state, and in doing so, they repel abundance rather than attract it. The law of consciousness is absolute. Your external life is a mirror of the dominant thoughts and feelings you persistently hold. By assuming the state of wealth inwardly, you do not wait for evidence outside to confirm it. You live it first, and the outer world inevitably conforms. Each opportunity, every resource, and all forms of prosperity are drawn to the state of consciousness that already embraces them as real. Opportunities often vary with subtle ways. A conversation, a new idea, or a chance encounter may open doors you did not even know existed. These are the reflections of your inner assumption, the universe responding to the state you consistently maintain. Money and resources flow effortlessly, not because of struggle or force, but because the consciousness that expects them naturally attracts them. When you live in the feeling of wealth, your intuition guides you to the right decisions, and the right people and circumstances appear to support your reality. This is the effortless law of manifestation in action. Your outer world is shaped entirely by your inner state. It is also essential to guard your consciousness carefully. Negative thoughts of lack, worry, or limitation distort the mirror and block the natural flow of abundance. Each time you return to the inner state of wealth and fulfillment, you strengthen the magnetism of your consciousness, allowing resources to align with your vision. The repetition of this feeling, reinforced by imagination and assumption, gradually transforms every aspect of your external life. The more fully you live in the state of abundance, the more effortlessly it becomes reflected in your material world. Abundance is not earned through struggle, it is mirrored in those who already embody it. The wealth you seek exists first in your mind and heart. Opportunities, money, and resources flow naturally to the consciousness that has assumed its reality. By living in this state consistently, you become the living magnet for all that you desire, and the world around you becomes the perfect reflection of the abundance you carry within. One of the greatest mistakes people make in seeking wealth and abundance is giving attention to what they do not have. When you dwell on debts, bills, scarcity, or lack, your consciousness is drawn into limitation, and the outer world, mind, mirrors this state. The law of consciousness is absolute. Your outer reality is the reflection of your dominant inner assumption. To experience true abundance, you must refuse to focus on absence and instead turn your full attention to the feeling of having, of fulfillment, of wealth already existing in your life. The universe does not respond to complaints, worries, or fixations on scarcity. It responds to the state of being you inhabit. When you dwell in the feeling of existing abundance, your mind organizes circumstances, opportunities, and resources to reflect that inner reality, and money flows naturally, effortlessly, and without resistance. It is not a denial of reality to ignore lack. It is an alignment with the truth of creation. The present state of your bank account, your debts, or your current environment is not the measure of what you can create. These external appearances are only temporary reflections, and they cannot resist the dominant inner state you choose to assume. Imagine for a moment that you are already living without limitation, that every need is fulfilled, and that abundance surrounds you in every form. Let yourself feel the ease, the joy, the security, and the freedom of that life. These feelings are far more powerful than facts or figures, because your outer reality is a mirror of your inner state. By dwelling on fulfillment instead of lack, you send a clear signal to your subconscious mind that scarcity is no longer your reality, and it begins to organize circumstances that support your inner assumption. The feeling of fulfillment is the most potent form of manifestation. It is not merely thinking or wishing that produces results, but living from the state as if it already exists. When you focus on what you already have, however small it may appear, you amplify the consciousness of plenty. Gratitude and satisfaction, when genuinely felt, a see as magnets drawing more abundance into your life. The more vividly and consistently you dwell in this state, the more your external circumstances begin to reflect it. Opportunities you could not see before suddenly appear. Financial resources find their way to you, and your life begins to operate from a foundation of ease rather than struggle. Ignoring lack also means refusing to let temporary setbacks disturb your inner state. Life may present challenges, but your focus on abundance keeps your consciousness aligned with the reality you desire. Do not argue with appearances. Do not allow external conditions to dictate your feelings. Instead, return continually to the feeling of fulfillment. Picture yourself living with freedom, ease, and wealth. Imagine making choices from a place of abundance, not limitation. The more you persist in this inner assumption, the faster and more effortlessly the outer world conforms. This is the law of consciousness in action. Outer circumstances must mirror the inner state. Every time you dwell in lack, you strengthen the opposite reality, the one you do not desire. Every time you return to the feeling of fulfillment, you strengthen the reality you do desire. Abundance flows naturally to those who focus on what is present, on what is possible, and on the feeling of wealth already existing. The more consistently you choose fulfillment over fear, satisfaction over worry, and abundance over scarcity, the more your life becomes a living proof of your inner state. To ignore lack is not avoidance, it is mastery. It is recognizing that the outer world is a reflection and that true creation begins within. By dwelling in the feeling of existing abundance, you attract money, resources, and opportunities with ease. You live as one already wealthy, and your life becomes the mirror of that persistent, unwavering inner reality. Fulfillment is not in the future, it is your present state waiting to be assumed fully and without hesitation. Wealth is not something to be acquired outside of you. It is a state of being, a natural identity that already exists within. Every human being carries the potential for abundance, prosperity, and freedom, but few realize that their outer life is simply a reflection of the state they assume within. When you fully embody the feeling of being wealthy, you align yourself with the life that matches that inner reality, and money, opportunities, and prosperity flow effortlessly into your experience. It is not the accumulation of assets, the pursuit of money, or the struggle to succeed that brings true wealth. It is the internal acceptance and full assumption of wealth as your natural state. To live from this identity is to live in harmony with the law of consciousness, where the outer world cannot resist the state you have claimed as your own. To embody wealth is to think, feel, and act as though abundance has always been your reality. It is to walk through life with confidence, ease, and a quiet knowing that every need and desire is already fulfilled. This is not a forced pretense or an act of willpower. It is a deep internal alignment, a feeling that saturates every thought, emotion, and action. When your consciousness is immersed in the reality of wealth, it emits a magnetic energy that naturally draws people, opportunities, and resources toward you. The world responds to your state of being, and when this state is one of abundance, the results are inevitable. By fully embodying wealth, you cease to chase it from the outside, and it begins to flow to you effortlessly, as if by natural law, your identity is the seed from which your life grows. If you identify as someone struggling, as someone lacking, your experiences will naturally align with that assumption. Conversely, when you identify as wealthy, as someone who lives in the state of abundance, your outer world cannot help but conform. Every decision you make, every opportunity you notice, and every action you take becomes a reflection of the reality you have assumed. This is why the conscious adoption of wealth as your identity is so powerful. It transforms your perception, your behavior, and ultimately the circumstances that appear before you. Wealth is not external, it is your natural identity, and living as that identity magnetizes prosperity to you. Fully embodying wealth also requires the elimination of doubt, fear, and attachment to lack. These are the only forces that block the natural flow of abundance. When you feel wealthy, not in some distant future, but as a present reality, you remove all resistance. Money and prosperity are not rewards for effort. They are reflections of the state you inhabit. By persistently living as one who is wealthy, you signal to your subconscious mind that abundance is your identity, and your subconscious in turn arranges your external circumstances to match that inner reality. The universe responds to identity, not effort, and when your identity is aligned with wealth, the flow of money is as natural as the flow of water. Embodying wealth also transforms how you interact with the world. You begin to notice opportunities that were invisible before, attract relationships and partnerships that support your prosperity, and make decisions from a foundation of confidence. Rate. Why then fear? The magnetism of your identity draws the right circumstances to you without struggle or coercion. Money and resources seek you out, not because you chase them, but because you have assumed the state that naturally attracts them. Your consciousness has become the fertile soil in which wealth grows, and the outer world is the harvest. Ultimately, wealth is your natural identity. It is not something to be earned, borrowed, or hoped for. It is a state to be assumed, embodied, and lived now. By fully feeling yourself as wealthy, by thinking, acting, and being from that state, you align yourself with the effortless flow of money and prosperity. Your life becomes a mirror of the reality you have accepted within, and abundance is no longer something you pursue. It is simply who you are. Wealth is not outside of you. It is your essence, your identity, your natural state of being, waiting to be fully realized and lived. Now you understand the simple yet profound truth. Wealth is not something to chase, struggle for, or wait to receive. It is the state you assume, the identity you embody, and the reality you create from within. By repeating the three words, I am wealthy, by living and feeling as if abundance already exists, by imagining your life as prosperous, and by persisting with unwavering conviction. You align yourself with the natural flow of money, opportunities, and success. Your outer world is merely the mirror of your inner state, and every thought, feeling, and assumption shapes the life you experience. Refuse to focus on lack, dwell in fulfillment, and embrace your natural identity as one who is already wealthy. When you do this, prosperity is not something distant. It is immediate, effortless, and inevitable. You are not waiting for wealth. You are wealth itself, and your life is the reflection of that truth.